Good evening. I'm Sarah Fisher. Tonight we tackle the debate over transgender women in women's sports. We have two respected political commentators with us. Mark Jensen speaks from a conservative view, and Dave Smith from a progressive one. We'll begin with opening remarks, move through 6 debate rounds, and end with closing statements. Dave, please start.
Transgender athletes deserve dignity and participation, but policy must be grounded in evidence. Hormone therapy reduces strength and speed differences significantly, though not always fully. Different sports show different gaps, and one rule doesn't fit all. The challenge is creating guidelines that balance fairness with inclusion, not erasing either side. Many trans athletes aren't elite outliers. Most compete without dominating. The goal is thoughtful policy, not blanket bans.
Women's sports exist to give female athletes fair competition. Biological males, even after transition, retain advantages in height, bone density, muscle mass, and lung capacity. These are not small differences. They shape performance. Sports bodies have experimented with guidelines, but the gap often remains. Protecting women's sports isn't exclusion. It's preserving the opportunities Title IX created. Inclusion matters, but fairness must come first.
Thank you for your opening statements. We'll now move into our 6 debate rounds, where each of you will expand on your case and challenge each other's opinions. Let's begin with round 1.
Mark, it's true that puberty shapes athletic potential, but hormone therapy can narrow the gap. Strength drops 20-30% after a year or two on estrogen and testosterone blockers. The data isn't perfect, but it shows variation by sport. Track, weightlifting, and swimming differ. We should acknowledge complexity, not assume every trans athlete carries the same advantage.
I get the nuance, Dave, but studies also show that even after hormone therapy, trans women often retain advantages in muscle memory, height, bone structure, and lung volume. Those don't disappear with hormones, and sports rely on tiny margins, milliseconds and centimeters. A small retained edge can reshape outcomes in elite competition.
Inclusion isn't just symbolic, it affects real people. Trans athletes often face isolation, depression, or exclusion if barred entirely. Policies should reflect that multiple goals matter: competitive fairness, human dignity, and participation at different levels. Not every competition is the Olympics.
I respect that, Dave, but fairness is the foundation of competitive sports. We separate age groups, weight classes, and sexes because biology matters. Women's sports exist to ensure women have a real chance to win. If inclusion undermines that core principle, we risk reversing decades of progress in female athletics.
For kids, the conversation should be different. Youth sports are about belonging, health, and development. Strict bans at young ages can do real harm without delivering meaningful fairness benefits. Non-elite participation should err toward inclusion.
I agree youth sports are about participation, but competition still matters, especially in high school, where scholarships and rankings come into play. If biological differences show up early, we can't ignore them simply because the athletes are younger. Policies may need stages, but fairness shouldn't disappear until college.
At elite levels, governing bodies can tailor policies using sport-specific data. World Aquatics, World Athletics, and the IOC are all updating guidelines. That's the right approach. Science-based, not panic-based. Some sports may allow inclusion, others may set strict boundaries. One rule across all sports isn't realistic.
And those bodies are moving towards sex-based categories for a reason, Dave. The more data they gather, the clearer the physical advantage appears in power, endurance, and speed. Elite women deserve a protected category. A universal women's division based on gender identity risks turning women's sports into mixed competition.
Mark, there are creative solutions. Open categories, mixed events, different divisions for recreational versus elite levels. The goal is to avoid forcing everyone into a binary that doesn't fit the science or the lived realities of trans athletes. We can expand categories rather than restrict them.
Options can help, but they shouldn't replace the clarity women's sports require. Multiple categories might work in large leagues, but not in small schools or colleges. The simplest, fairest solution is keeping women's sports female-only at the elite level, while finding inclusive options for recreational play.
This debate has become emotionally charged, and trans athletes often face hostility far beyond policy disagreements. We should acknowledge their humanity. They aren't trying to win unfairly, they're trying to belong. Policy must reflect empathy as well as data.
I agree empathy matters, Dave, but clarity matters too. Protecting women's sports isn't about hostility. It's about fairness for millions of female athletes. We can respect trans athletes while admitting biology shapes performance. These issues can be addressed with honesty, not accusations.
Thank you both. We'll now move to closing statements, giving each of you a final opportunity to clarify your position and speak directly to viewers about the question at the center of tonight's debate. Should transgender women compete in women's sports? Mark, you may begin.
Tonight's debate underscored why women's sports were created, to ensure fair opportunities for female athletes. Dave made important points about dignity and participation, especially for kids and recreational athletes. But the discussion also showed that biological differences, height, bone structure, muscle capacity, often persist after transition. In elite competition, those margins matter. Protecting a women's category isn't discrimination. It's preserving competitive fairness and the spirit of Title IX. Inclusion is vital, but fairness must remain the foundation of sport.
This conversation highlighted how complex and sensitive this issue is. Mark is right that fairness is essential, especially in elite sports. But our discussion also showed that transgender athletes vary widely, that hormone therapy changes performance, and that different sports require different rules. Blanket bans ignore both science and human experience. The real challenge is designing policies that protect women's sports while allowing trans athletes to participate in ways that respect their identity and humanity. Thoughtful, sport-specific solutions, not sweeping exclusions, offer the best path forward.
Tonight's debate illuminated the core tension in this issue, balancing fairness for female athletes with inclusion for transgender athletes. Mark emphasized the biological differences that shape performance and the need to preserve women's sports as a protected category. Dave focused on the variability and athletic impact, the role of hormone therapy, and the importance of empathy and sport-specific policies. Together, these perspectives highlight why the debate continues. Thank you for joining us, and please subscribe to see more AI-generated discussions. Good night.